Friday's closed-door hearing for former FBI lawyer Lisa Page was nowhere near as combative as that of FBI agent Peter Strzok the day before. Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee say Page was cooperative and answered questions that Strzok would not about the investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails and the Trump campaign's alleged connections to Russia. Democrats contacted by MSNBC would not discuss her testimony. Strzok was grilled for about 10 hours about the text messages the two exchanged with Republicans, claiming there were clear evidence of anti-Trump bias at the FBI.
Let me be clear, unequivocally and under oath, not once in my 26 years of defending our nation did my personal opinions impact any official action I took. This is true for the Clinton email investigation, for the investigation into Russian interference, and for every other investigation I've worked on. I'm also proud of our work on the Russian interference investigation. This investigation is not politically motivated. It is not a witch hunt. It is not a hoax.
Joining me now is Adrian Elrod, former Director of Strategic Communications for Hillary for America, and also Evan Siegfried, Republican strategist. Both of you, love having you with me here on set.
Thanks, great to be here with you, too.
I want to start with you, Evan. You talk about this, and when you have these Republican lawmakers grilling Page, they seem to be more receptive to her when it comes to some new information that she provided. What information is that?
I don't know, because it was in a closed-door hearing.
Yeah.
And you know why there wasn't a huge grilling? Because there weren't TV cameras on, and the base isn't going to be watching. I find it ironic that with the Peter Strzok hearing, Republicans in my side of the aisle tried to make it into, well, this is an investigation, and you're letting your bias get in the way. But their biases were also getting in the way. Their bias was to protect the president. It was very disappointing to see Louis Gohmert, who's sort of the version of Forrest Gump, but if he were evil, go out and attack Peter Strzok that way. And while I didn't like Peter Strzok's body language and the way he was smirking and trying to mess with many members of the committee, I thought it was inappropriate. There were some Democrats who were also inappropriate, but not to the level of...
Well, Adrian, you have Republicans that are zeroed in on the text messages of anti-Trump sentiment here. When it comes to that between Page, between Strzok and there, is there legitimate good reason to be concerned with that?
Well, I think there is legitimate reason to be concerned because, number one, you are seeing some of these text messages that do show some sort of bias. But we also have to remember that Peter Strzok, and this oftentimes gets lost in the news process, that Peter Strzok also said bad things about Hillary Clinton and about Bernie Sanders, so it wasn't just isolated to Donald Trump. We also have to keep in mind that Peter Strzok wanted to testify publicly. This is something that he made very clear to clear his name. He's been under assault from the GOP and from the far right for the past, 5 to 6 months since these text messages came out. He wanted to go out there and prove that he is very loyal to the FBI, that these messages by no means impacted the way he handled the investigation. So he had a lot to prove. I actually thought he did a great job. We were just talking in the green room before we both came on that these hearings, unfortunately, have become such a spectacle, right? Especially, let's look at the Benghazi hearing. There were so many Republican members who raised money off of the way they questioned Secretary Clinton at the time. You're seeing the same thing with Strzok. This is sort of a show, and we were seeing it on both sides, too.
Well, I want to talk about that. When it comes to the Inspector General's report here, Evan, you have no political bias that was found when it comes to that and the handling of the Hillary Clinton's email. So, when it comes to, you say, the show, no cameras there, is this Republicans playing politics?
Oh, everybody plays politics on Capitol Hill. I don't think it's exclusive to Republicans. Democrats do it, too. But the thing that really sticks in my craw as somebody who worked in the federal justice system, everybody has biases. Can they filter them out? That's the first question. And also, we have safeguards built in. There are people around every prosecutor and investigator to make sure that they are having as clean and untainted a case as possible. And Peter Strzok did say that happened. Yeah. And it's almost like you see these pro-Trump defenders who are attacking Peter Strzok saying, well, because he didn't like Donald Trump, therefore this entire investigation is bunk. That's like saying a prosecutor prosecuting a terrorist or a mafioso because they don't like the mob or terrorists, therefore they can't prosecute them. It's garbage.
Well, ahead of this meeting, this one-on-one that the president's going to have with Vladimir Putin, you have Strzok at one point in this testimony saying this investigation is just helping the Russians here. It's going to help with Putin. Your take on that one?
No, he's exactly right. I mean, this has become such a spectacle, and we are continuing to get away from the fact that ultimately it is Congress's responsibility and the Trump administration's responsibility to get to the bottom of what actually happened. And instead, you've got a 10, 11-hour hearing that was nationally televised by all the networks yesterday, or at least by the or Wednesday by the cable networks, over text messages that were sent between two people who were having an extramarital affair who both happen to work at the FBI. So, again, we are getting away from, unfortunately, and this is, again, happening on both sides of the aisle, we are getting away from the actual task at hand, which is trying to figure out what actually happened.
And Adrian's absolutely right. Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates said to the Hudson Institute recently that the lights are blinking. Not only is Russia, they're red for 2018 and 2020. Not only is it Russia, it's China, it's Iran. Our enemies see us now as weak because we are not responding to what happened in 2016. There's going to be more chaos, and if nothing is done about it, shame on the Trump administration, shame on Democrats in the House, and shame on Republicans.
As in full-on electronic warfare, it's been called. Adrian Elrod and Evan Seek.